going on, everybody? Welcome into The Highlight, a business podcast for business people. And today, I'm really lucky to be sharing the highlight with a new friend, a guy that sees the business world from a totally different angle than me, and I can't wait to jump in with him. Will Brown is here, the founder and owner today of the Benefits Group. Will, welcome on, man. How are you doing?
I didn't bring my posse with me today, so I had to do my own.
That's right.
My own build up. But yeah, no, thank you for having me, Chandler.
No, man, I'm excited for this conversation. So, High Beam Marketing, we're the marketing arm for a lot of businesses, especially the SMBs, the small to medium sized businesses. And what I found interesting in my last 2 years of doing this agency is that a lot of these guys are really good at the thing they do. Whether they're a plumber, HVAC, real estate, some e-com brands that we work with, they're really good at the thing. And then all of a sudden, they're these business owners and they're running these $1 million plus top line deals, and they've got 10 plus employees on payroll, and they're like, oh, I've got to be a marketer, I've got to be an HR person, I got to be all these other disciplines of business, and I don't have the money to hire that person on full time. And so I have a sneaky suspicion that you guys fill a similar role that we do, which is like sort of this fractional part-time marketing team. And that's what you guys are doing with the Benefits Group. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, we plug in absolutely. Except the good news is they don't have to pay us.
Well, I like that. How does that work?
I get lucky. So we get to come in and be the hero and save the day. And really, it's the carriers on the backside who give you a small little amount. So it's nothing you get into for a lot of money. I can tell you that. You have to build a business and benefits over years and years at a time. But I absolutely love it.
That's awesome.
Never thought I'd grow up to be in insurance. I can tell you that. But here I am, and this is a field, we'll get into my passion for it. But yeah.
Well, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. How in the world did you end up starting your own business doing this?
Chandler, I'm glad you asked. It started in a little town in Stuart, Florida in 1970. So, no, I'm just kidding. We're not going that far back. But
run it back.
You better settle in. No, but so the abridged version is this. I spent 6 years getting my master's of accountancy, sit for the CPA, think I'm finally made it. I work sod fields in Florida and construction, digging footers, and I finally go to this big, nice building downtown Nashville and realized, hey, I'm working 90 hours a week at times. And so I spent a couple of years in public accounting with a firm called Deloitte & Touche, and then I go into an assistant controllership role in manufacturing. And that also was boring for me. No offense to any accountants out there. I couldn't see doing the same thing over and over again. And that also was a lot of hours. And also in a manufacturing environment, you just don't get the credibility from the ops people. Mm. You're seen as a bottom line expense. So I went into consulting, and I knew I'd seen behind the curtain of some large companies and small as well. And I knew what made business run, and I found out that's what I liked, right? What made business run. So I would work with these small to mid-sized business owners in all areas, from structure to tax to just management. I had the benefit of benchmarking across these industries, seeing what worked and what didn't. And then I knew that consulting was very nebulous, and you could have a jewelry consultant, right? So consulting, and it was just very hard to wrangle in these small mid-sized business owners who were working in this whirlwind. So I saw this area of benefits, and benefits is a high impact for the employer and the employee, especially now in today's age. It is one of the biggest lifetime spends between medical premiums and medical outlay. It's the leading cause of poverty and bankruptcy in our country. Mm. And so for such a high impact, there's a low technical aptitude ascribed to it. Most people who just get in this, get a license and think, oh, I'm going to sell insurance. So I saw a need, and business is there to solve a need. And I saw there was a need for differentiation, doing it better, not just order taking. And so, I've been in this since 2012 in insurance proper, and absolutely love what I do. And so we help small to mid-sized businesses offer Fortune 500 benefits, and we do it well.
Yeah. No, I love that tagline. As a marketer, copywriter, brander myself, I saw that and I was like, it immediately clicked for me. I was like, I totally get what you're doing. It's the power of It's the reason why people choose to go work for those firms a lot of time. It's like, yeah, there might be a little bit of like, I like to have that company on the resume. It helps my career development, but also it's big, it's stable. They have good benefits. Like how many times have we heard parents and other older generations say they got good benefits at that job? And it's almost like this selling point. And it is for a lot of people that are doing that. Like you and I, maybe are a little bit different. And the entrepreneurial cloth where we sort of are like, I got to be out there on my own. I don't need the benefits. We'll make it happen. But for those people that are working for your company, like I think some of the times a small business struggles to retain or attract the same level of talent as a Fortune 500. And a lot of times it comes down to the benefits. It's not the compensation on a yearly basis. It's the, am I going to be able to actually go to the hospital to cover something? Is that, what's the fear that the people you end up working with have when it comes to, should I do this or should I work with a bigger company? Like how do you unpack that for them?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, absolutely, there is a halo effect that happens, which lends itself to the attracting and retaining. So here's an example. If I want to work for an HVAC company and they've got 15 to 20 employees, I absolutely love the culture. Gary and Barb, I'm painting a picture for you here. They own the company and I love them. They're like my grandparents that I remember. And Barb makes brownies every Friday for us, right? However, they offer no benefits. So I go home to my wife and she's like, hey, do we have coverage? What? No, I'm going to I'm most probably going to go to a larger company that I don't like the culture, don't like working for in order to get those benefits. It also tends to, it's not right, but we also filter how we see that company. So if I come to work for you and you just have a snack machine in your conference room and that's the extent of your benefits, then I see this other company that does the same thing you do, but they offer a full suite of benefits. Mm-hmm. I'm going to think that they do business a little differently. I'm going to put them here rather than, it's like the difference in a mechanic, right? That's got the insurance and the garage and the tools and the shade tree mechanic. The shade tree mechanic may, be able to do it less expensive and have just as much knowledge, but that halo effect of the person that has all the trappings, mm-hmm. Well, benefits is a trapping.
Yeah.
And it's very important. So, and I just try to tell those smaller businesses, yes, you can. That's what I want them to know. Yes, you can.
Yeah. Why do you think they don't think they can't?
Oh, well, it's the reason I got into this. Most brokers, and since I'm not talking about a specific person, I don't think it's ugly to say, but most brokers are lazy. They're product peddlers. And what happened was either the company was too small and the broker said, basically, go away, kid. You're not worth my time. Or they just printed off a quote because really under a certain 50 lives, if you're a broker, I can show you just about the same things on this, what we call the fully insured. It's just the prepackaged market. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's no creativity there. And that's where most brokers land. Mm. And so what they do is there's literally 1,000 plans and they just go for their two favorite Blue Cross plans. Let's say they pull out a quote. They don't understand the employee demographic or the levers that are driving it, nor do they explain that to their client. So the client sees this plan that's $575 employee only with a $5,000 deductible. Their employee's making $18 an hour, so it's not palatable. Mm-hmm. That's why it's not exciting. Nobody's going to get excited about it. They're going to take all the time, energy, and effort to set it up. Nobody's going to enroll because it's too costly and they can't afford. So I'm not saying that there are some cases where the price is unattainable, but 90% of our folks that come here can absolutely offer benefits or find a solution that works for them, some sort of solution. And yeah. That's why they just had a bad experience. And I've had people say, I can break down an engine and rebuild it, but I can't understand this help.
Yeah. There's the old entrepreneur book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, which I'm not sure if you read. I mean, it's that the classic story in that book is the person is a technician is really good at, let's say the HVAC example, right? They're really good at fixing HVAC. They do it for somebody else. And then one day they just have this, what Michael Gerber called an entrepreneurial seizure, where they're just saying, I could do this better than my boss. I could run this thing. And then they go start their own company. And like we talked about at the beginning of the interview, maybe 5-10 years later, they've got 10 plus employees, $1 million plus in revenue. And all of a sudden they're a business owner, not an HVAC guy anymore. And, it's funny for me is everybody I end up meeting is they don't understand that you have to swap gears. You have to become the business owner. And not that's your full-time job. Your full-time job is not I want to be an HVAC guy all the time, unless you just want to run a one-man band, which is a totally acceptable thing, which is why, whenever I'm working with people that are just starting something brand new, or maybe they're a entrepreneur that wants to come onto the scene, I ask them day one, I'm like, what do you actually want? Do you want to just own your job and have a little bit of freedom in that? And then that's perfect and great. Or do you want to actually build something larger? Because that's a totally different, you're applying for two different jobs in this moment. They are masquerading as the same job, but they are two totally different jobs. So I love that companies like yours exist because you can come alongside. And this took me, so my first business was a barbecue restaurant. And this took me way too long to figure out. I was a technician. Me and my mom were very good at making barbecue, and like we were good at the food side of things because that was the backyard thing. But it took me a long time to figure out who to trust, because the internet, like we were talking about right before we came on, is just full of internet gurus that'll sell you this, sell you that. This one magic bullet's going to fix all your problems, yada, yada. And so I love that companies like yours exist because it's actually a trusted person that's been in the industry for a long time and doesn't really need social media followers to make their course or whatever it is actually sell. So just hear it from me as a former, SMB, as a brick and mortar owner that had 15 to 20 employees, depending on the time. Like, I appreciate the work guys like you do because it makes my life infinitely easier. So that's my,
well, thank you. And that's the heart behind what we do. We never treat anyone like a metric. So we help two-man groups. Do we make any money on a two-man group? No. But I don't treat them any differently, because if I do, then I made you a metric. And I've had people say, well, Will, you have to consider cost benefit. And they're probably right. But just in my character, my spirit, if I treat you differently because you have 2 or 3 employees, you'll sense it. A. B, I've made you a metric because I am treating you differently based on what I can earn from you. And truth is, your employees are just as important as the 200-man group. So we treat everyone the same. We educate them. We give them all the bells and whistles. But, to your point, kind of deviating on the entrepreneurial side, I have a lot of respect for entrepreneurs. It takes a lot of moxie to do that. And yeah, you could be either a lifestyle business, that's a one person shop. But I do tell small business owners, because we do become a trusted advisor. They can tell very quickly that, albeit benefits is our widget. I've had business experience and a purview over different areas in my life, and I can just at least feed in and give them some advice. So your beginning entrepreneurs, I would always say act as if. Because on the audit side, I've seen these larger companies that didn't have a good foundation. So they were larger with bad processes. So if you're smaller, you need to act as if. That means your processes need to be documented, have good benefits. You should have your cyber protection or liability insurance if you're doing stuff online. Make sure you have all the trappings of a larger company so that as you grow, and these things don't take much, and as you get a little one size, make sure you have key man life. So that if something happens to you and your spouse or family member needs to continue the business, they can hire a interim CFO or whatever. Like, there's all little things that entrepreneurs really don't get, that they just jump in, like you said, feet first, because of that thing that drives us. And we're like, I can make good barbecue. I can make good, blueberry muffins in the E-Myth Revisited and whatever it is. And then we realize, man, there's so much more. And benefits is a very complex piece of that. And so we try to do all the work as much as we can. We explain the process and we say, look, you go make widgets, we'll do this piece. But we'll explain to you as we go along so you can make an informed decision and understand why we're doing what we're doing.
Why is that so important? Why is it important to for a entrepreneur that's out there, or a small business owner that's out there that's now looking to bring you guys in versus another firm? And let's say everything is equal, but you guys are going to be the teachers and the other company is just going to be about numbers on a spreadsheet. Why does it matter to work with a partner that's actually going to teach you? And I have a lot of thoughts on this because we run into this with marketing all the time.
Oh, well, there are a few. I'll go before I go to the reason why. There are a few that have told us, "Hey, I trust you. I don't need to know how the sausage is made." But that's the exception, not the rule. Most people are highly intelligent and want you to spend the time and want to understand. I figure if I put the power in their hands to question me, and to understand why we're making those decisions, there's a lot more trust and rapport built rather than if I'm like, take my word for it. And so to answer your question succinctly, why is it important, whether it's your business or mine? Because their trust has been misguided, misused, misappropriated so many times before where the person said, trust me, trust me, trust me. I ran into that with the vendor. I'm always looking for there are several things that differentiate us, but one of the things is being, knowing what's out there, because we have vendors, underwriters, different plan designs that we go to, right? And this guy was like, oh yeah, we'll do your business. And I had to send him an email the other day. Is there anyone else in your organization that has more bandwidth? Because he'd wait weeks, 10 days, 14 days, to get back to me. I'm not a needy person, but I need a response if I've got a client and I'm sending you business, right? Mm-hmm. So I took his word. He didn't explain any process. And so I felt over here and I wasn't inside. Mm. If you bring somebody in, they come alongside of you. Now you are partners towards the same goal. That's why the education is important. Mm. Instead of, I'm here, you're out here, take my word. I bring you alongside me. We know the same things together. Now we can figure it out and you accept my solution because you understand why I'm making it.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I feel like with the adoption of the internet about 20 years ago, and as the millennial generation and now even Gen Z is coming up and coming into the workforce, and now the millennial generation is starting to take leadership roles on, they are used to having no information gap. They don't believe in an information gap. It's led us at Highbeam to start saying information is free. You get to charge people for context. And so like you guys giving away all the quote unquote information in that meeting, like you're talking about coming alongside people and actually teaching them as you go, you're closing the information gap for them, which is a value add of your actual business, which is going to make your firm infinitely more valuable than anybody else out there, right? Because especially the millennial generation coming up, starting to lead and run their own businesses now, that is step one for trust building, is like, are you able to teach me what I need to know? Because if you can't, I'm going to assume you're a snake oil salesman, and if I do business with you, it's going to be very short term and you're on a very thin ice. If you take 10 days to get back to me versus 5, then we're out. It's over. It's super interesting to point that out. So let's say we've got a business owner that is now on board. They're like, hey, I want to be the small business that's acting like a Fortune 500. I want to invest in company culture. I'm here for this. I want to give back to my guys. I want to set them up to succeed. So the husband or wife can go home to their spouse and say, hey, if you've got to go to the doctor tomorrow, we're good. We're covered now. What are the suite of benefits you usually recommend? And I'm sure that's very industry and company and size and all the things specific, but give the people a few things to maybe think about, or what are the most popular things that we definitely got to make sure we put on the list?
Sure. Well, before I answer that, if I may, I want to go back to your point too, because I think something that I want to point out to any business owner out there is, again, why is this so important? Because you are the conduit. If you don't offer your employee, they only have one other option for insurance, and that's the healthcare.gov or the marketplace. Each state has a different one, and that's the high risk pool. It's exorbitantly priced, and unless they're getting a subsidy, it's unaffordable, period. So the employer sponsored plan, by just you offering it, gives them options. So it also helps mitigate risk like work comp claims, because if somebody's working for you and you have no insurance and they hurt themselves on a softball league on Sunday, and they break their arm and they know they have no other money, they're going to transfer that risk to you Monday morning. They're going to come in, act like everything's fine. Oh, I broke it on work so they can get work comp. If they have a full suite of benefits like a health, maybe a disability, then they're going to transfer that risk to that rather than to you. So especially last thing too, for a smaller employer, your employees' names, you probably know their family members. Last thing you want to do is be hit up with, hey, we're having a baby, we have no insurance, we couldn't afford it. Can I get an advance on my pay? Is there some extra hours I can take on? So those are little things I want you to think about. It's not just this perfunctory kind of out here, oh, benefits sounds very boring. There's a lot of human emotion tied to this, a lot of human suffering, a lot of decisions, financial, that are based around that. So to your point, what kind would I start with? We're full service. So there's everything from your dental, vision, your medical, your disability, your group life. What I suggest to give you an answer, when you're starting off, I would kind of focus on those core. There's a lot of decisions to be made, so as not to overwhelm you. perhaps just go with your core, your medical, dental, vision. Typically, your medical has a telehealth built in. You want a good telehealth that gives unlimited visits. They're starting to, as it becomes more popular, you'll see utilization thresholds where they'll kind of limit your, usage. And we've got carriers that won't do that. But behavioral health is more important than ever. After 2020, we all know what happened there, and we see behavioral health, the access for whether it's kind of a 24/7 emergency fill-in, I'm having a bad day, or to kind of a cadence of counseling with the same counselor. Those are available. So that's really important. And it can, for a very low dollar, a couple dollars per employee per month. But what I would suggest if I was starting a new plan would have my dental, vision, a medical. And by the way, it's a cafeteria plan. So somebody can sign up with the dental without being in the medical or vision. So they can pick and choose. You've got your telemed, and then maybe one group product that you do sponsor. I'm not trying to get into the owner's pockets, but maybe a group life or a group disability, because that is the low dollar, high impact, meaning high perceived goodwill. You can cover a 10-man group, with a $25,000 life policy for a couple dollars per employee per month. So you might spend $80 a month to cover everyone. And the idea to say, look, Chandler, you know every football stat, every player, but you don't have a plan B for your family. You have this 32-year-old newly married. If something happens to you while we're here, I want to make sure they at least have the money to properly bury you and maybe pay off some of your bills. So everybody who comes on board gets a $25,000 life insurance. And on top of that, if you want to buy up, you can buy up to X amount without evidence of insurability. So if your height, weight is out of bounds, so you're doing them a favor because you're giving them access to some subtle nuances that you don't even realize. And it's a very low dollar, high impact. So your question, medical, dental, vision, make sure that telemed's in there with some behavioral health. Look at that piece. And then if you want to tack on a piece that's a group paid, give them a long-term disability or a short-term. Long-term's less expensive, and a group life or a group life.
That's great.
So yeah.
That's great. Something you just pointed to there was about a little bit of building company culture. And what I have found to be the thing I underestimated the most when I first started in owning my own businesses was how important company culture was, which was ironic to me because I appreciated when the companies I worked for took care of me and invested in the company culture beyond, hey, we had a Friday pizza party. We actually have like great benefits, or we have we're putting things in place that you've asked for, that we're listening to your needs, and like we're actually actively investing in company culture. And so I'd love to say this is not so much benefits related specifically, but you've been around the space and you own your own business. For this is a 7-8-year-old business now for you guys, right?
Yeah,
something like that. So like you know how important company culture is at this point. Like, so what are your thoughts around building a healthy company culture? And then if it weave in benefits to that, then great.
Well, I'm part of a peer advisory board, and one of the wisest things not wisest, but one thing that stuck with me is you have a culture whether you've focused on it or not. So you may not know you have a culture, but you're developing one every day, whether you focus on it or not. So you might as well craft the narrative. And that culture is one of caring. People know you care. That doesn't mean you have to listen to their problems. That means giving them an environment that's safe, an environment that's well thought out, that they feel like you're going to be around, that you're how you treat the customer is how you treat them, right? You can't have a disparity in focusing on the customer and then treat them like they're replaceable. So there's a lot of things that go into that, but benefits. So you may not be able to afford to pay a lot. And I've seen companies that are out there, friends of mine that are in maybe a low margin industry, and they can only pay $14, $15 an hour, which used to be the standard. I think now for a good, it's 17, 18, right, to start. So it's going up, but they pay 14 to 15, but they have a nice benefit package and a good culture. So they have kind of team group meetings. They do stuff together. There's just other things that they do. But the employee can tell that they're focused on, that they're cared about. And the benefits, how that weaves into that is, you took the effort, and what I alluded to before is they have no other options, so you're providing that option for them, and we make you look like $1 million. So we pay for this platform called Employee Navigator, which is your enrollment platform. So if you're a smaller employer and you offer benefits, you don't have to like pull out this old wrinkled paper and go, oh, here, Chandler, welcome to your first day. Just fill out this right here. And no, everything's online, digital. It's got your logo. We have another platform of content, a learning management system that we give our clients for free. It costs us a lot for the learning management alone. If they were to spend money for like the sexual harassment training or all the different, workplace safety, would be $3,500 or more. We give them that. So we want them, even though they're smaller, to look like $1 million so they can go do what they do. And so to the employee, they see this and they say, oh, okay, I may not enroll in that 401k plan or that benefit plan, but knowing you have it speaks volumes to how you run your business and how you see me. And the last thing I'll say, I'll land the plane to this question here. I've seen organizations where they offered it and maybe there wasn't a huge response, maybe only 50% initially, because they had a younger, newly adulting, crew, right? But guess what? A spouse loses coverage. They get diagnosed with something. There's a problem. All of a sudden, that company becomes a lifeline. That does more than $1.50 raise you can do. When they can jump on your plan, they're like, hey, can I jump on? My husband or wife lost their coverage, or we really need coverage. We're planning. How do I do that? That is nice. That's a big win for the company.
Yeah, it's making it sticky. And that actually is a great segue to this next question, which is, what's the cost of employee turnover? I saw a great stat on your site, and I'd love for you to unpack that for us. And I've got the number if you need me to throw it out there, but I'm sure you got it off the cuff.
Well, I don't remember exactly. I think it costs like anywhere from 1 to 3 times salary. Tell me if I'm off what it's changed to. It can be for replacement training.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's the effort. Yeah, it's the dollar amount that people underestimate. Thank you for bringing that up, actually. Most people really don't even mention that. And to be quite frank, I often forget that myself. But the turnover piece, not only the dollar figure, but the time spent in training, the culture. For a smaller organization, if they have people coming and going, it really does a number on your culture. It gets other people to question too, like, what's going on here? Why can't they keep people?
Yeah.
And that's often overlooked. That's a little harder it's not hard to quantify. People don't spend the time, but you can definitely see the impact over time and on your culture and on the frustration level of the owner or the C-suite that's having to try to recruit new people and train them. They become exacerbated. And so you start losing these tiers, and then the folks that are responsible for that, you start burning them out, and you're either spiraling upward, culture's good, people are happy, productivity's there, efficiency's good, clients are happier, you're bringing in more, you're good, or you're spiraling downward. People are unhappy, they're not doing their job, you have people coming in late, leaving, resources are allocated to recruiting, not to customer service, sales drop. Spiral up or spiral down, you choose.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't understand the cost of employee retention or not being able to do it when I was running the barbecue restaurant. Because in restaurants, especially, that lower hourly, let's say $10 to $20 an hour employee, they are either looking for, a lot of them are just looking for the next 50-cent pay bump. And that's, or the next job in 90 days. Like we had about a 90-day turnover rate for like 50% of our staff for the most part. And we could never fix it. There was not enough, there wasn't enough team building stuff we could do. We couldn't pour into people enough. And some of that was college kids and just being transient in nature. But, it was, looking back on it, I really wish I'd have thought about the, what can we do instead of spending all this money running ads for the next round of hires? Can we take 50% of that or invest 50% of that on the front end, bite the bullet, bite the cost so that we can stop it 3 months after the fact? But let's say you're spending, $2-3 grand a month running ads, just trying to get people in the door to apply, because that's another thing in the restaurant business. Like you're looking for those sort of diamonds in the rough, because there may be more options out there for people, but they're not the highest quality person. They're not the right fit culturally. for the organization, which means they're just going to burn out and leave anyways. But if you find one that's good, losing them is devastating. Especially if they've been around 6+ months in the restaurant business. They're basically veterans. They know how everything runs.
It can take the wind out of your sails. Yes.
Yeah. And then it was me getting phone calls on Saturday night coming in to wash dishes. And, that was the price I paid, because I had this information gap as an owner between doing barbecue really, really well on the weekends for fun and running a really successful barbecue restaurant. And I love what you're saying there, because it is expensive to replace people.
Chandler, too, I would say this. While we do the traditional, that's how we run our business. We set up the traditional benefits that we could all mention here and you're familiar with. But I did a speaking engagement a couple of years back at a conference, and I had gathered in that time a list, and I've got it still, and you could research it. But there's other creative ways outside of just medical, dental, vision, right? So to your point, somebody has to be happy with what they do. So whether it's more days off, a little longer hours, helping them get some certification somewhere, fun stuff like, everybody hire a car washing service to come wash their cars while they're out in the line and shine them up. It may cost you a little money, but you just talked about your budget. What about a night where you got they have services like for watching kids at night. There's like daycares that already have the insurance and they're set up for that. But you could pay them and say, hey, we're going to have a group night out. This is parents' night out. Or send a DoorDash. I've done this before too. You send a DoorDash certificate. Hey, don't cook tonight. It's Friday night. I don't want you cooking. Go have fun with the family and dinner's on us. There's so many creative ways to, hey, here's a gas card. Let us put $50 in your tank. Those little creative things, if we get so creative when we're planning a vacation for ourselves, typically we're researching all these different things. Does it have a pool? How close to the beach? What about the golf cart? What's the, all this neat stuff. And yet when it comes to the people that are helping us enjoy growth, we often minimize them to, here's your check. You're lucky to get it. Now go away. And so we don't get as creative. And I would just suggest to everyone out there, myself included, if you can't do it, put somebody in place that's responsible for overseeing your culture, your team, stay in check with them, get a temp check. And we recently did that. I know I love that role, but as we get busier, I was unable to fulfill it. And I realized that people need accountability. They need to know they're heard. So I hired somebody who oversees the admin staff, and that's her role, is to not only look for efficiencies, but to talk to them, tell them how great they are, and come up with creative ideas, remind us of birthdays and just the things that, come in and out with all this gray hair.
Well, it's going back to making your organization sticky. It's easy to leave a place just for money. It really is. It's hard to leave a place where you feel like a valued member of the team. You feel like you're challenged just enough, but not too much. You're growing. You feel like you're compensated fairly. You feel taken care of. You feel like they know you because they, gray hair or not, they remembered your anniversary or birthdays. It's funny. You didn't get to meet him today, but one of my co-founders, Austin, is way more fun than me. And he ensured, and we fought about this, little F fought about one of our core values at Highbeam ended up being we had to have fun. Like if it's not fun, it's pointless. And I take myself way too serious. A lot of times I'm way too aggressive, all this other nonsense. And then Austin is like, hey man, we're working hard. Like we don't have to work harder. We can take a break and do a pool party thing, or we can do fun things. And there's only 3 of us on the team right now. But back to your point earlier, I saw in that moment the value in what Austin was talking about and saying, yeah, I might not need that. Ben, our other co-founder, may not need that. But the employees we have 5 years from now, as we continue to grow, because that's our aspiration as an organization, probably will want something like that. And going ahead from day one, being the leaders that set the tone, set the example, and we set the bar. And as leaders, if you're not setting the bar and actually living up to the bar, then don't expect your people to. Because the things you're describing, all those fun, great culture building activities where we're showing people inside the organization that we care about each other, what that trickles down to is they do it on their own. they see that that's the bar. So they find their own ways internally to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And then you just come down and walk the floor one day, or, meet with everybody. And you're like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, yeah, we sort of took this thing, da, da, da. And they're owning building a healthy culture on their own. And that's when, as a business owner, you start to feel really good because you're like, oh, this thing has legs.
Yes.
It's not so reliant on me all the time. Yeah, I love that. Those are great examples.
You want to create the environment for growth and blossoming. Absolutely.
No, I love that.
So, people work remotely now, so there was creative ideas you could do for remote. But I remember one of the things we did that was really fun, we did recently, we went to Opryland, like a tour backstage of the Grand Ole Opry, actually. We did a backstage tour, but we did go-karts. Those fast go-karts? Like I'm talking about, you got to get a driver's license, do a little training, got the helmet. Oh, those were so fun. And, and those are things that you always remember that build the little, feeling of family.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a book I read. It's called Power of Moments by the Heath brothers, I think. But one of the things they talk about in there is like the things we remember are sort of these milestone-esque moments. There's like the peaks in your memory. Like everybody remembers the game from an athlete's point of view. You remember the game. You remember winning or losing, but nobody really remembers a year later the training in between the games, right? You just remember, and then the further out you get from your career, I won a state championship in high school in baseball. I remember that. I don't really remember one regular season game. Not really the entire time I was there. So it's like that really high moment ends up sticking out in the long run. And so, being able to remember something super unique, like we had to get a driver's test all over again, like we were 16 just to drive go-karts with the team. That's a story that, the new employees are going to be jealous that they didn't get to experience. So I love that. What is the...
I'll tell you this, no more evident. Sorry to interrupt. I was just thinking golf. Golf's a prime example of that. You can go all day on the course. You don't remember any bad shot, but you remember hole 7 when, boy, you got it that close to the cup on a chip on a par 3. So if you've ever played golf, you guys know what I'm talking about because those golf shots, you can leave and you focus on the good shots you have.
What was the amateur guy's name a couple weeks back that stormed the world and like he got an invite to play?
Oh, yeah. My in-laws would know. I'm not great with memory, but I know who you're talking about.
But
I heard about him every day.
Yeah, he said in an interview, I like to play. I'm not good at watching. But he said in an interview, he was like, I know that this is the most important golf tournament I'll ever play in my life. And he just knew that in that moment, he was in one of those like milestone high point type deals and he was soaking it up. He also like drained a par 3 hole in one, like literally swished it into the bottom of the cup, which is just wild. And so, good for him. And then the week after that,
Absolutely.
Poor guy fell apart and was like last in the tournament he got invited to. So, it was, that run seems to be over. Hopefully not for him, but it seems to have ended. But he'll always have that memory, and he knew it. So good for him.
Absolutely. Nobody can take that away from him.
That's right. So, Will, the I don't know what I don't know, and I try to ask questions and put my business owner hat on and try to dig in. But like, what are the things that I haven't asked about or that you're sort of wishing we had covered? And if not, that's fine. But I always like to give the guest an opportunity to sort of unpack something that maybe I wasn't smart enough to ask about.
You mean as it relates to benefits? No, I think you covered it all. You just benefits. I would say you just got to be behind. You have to make a commitment. Here's what I mean. If I'm introduced to someone and I've had this happen, and the owner says, "Yeah, show me what you got. My guys spend money on beer and cigarettes on Friday. We'll take a look at it and maybe I'll get back to you." We're not going to probably be a good fit. Because in business, there's 2 things that need to happen. First, you got to solve a problem, right? So you got to know there's a problem. And number 2, I got to convince you that I'm the solution for that problem. Mm-hmm. So if you already know there's a problem and I don't have to drag you to the finish line, this part I can do. But trying to convince somebody that they have a problem is not where I want to be because I don't get good, outcomes. But Barb and Gary, remember them from earlier? If they come to me and say, look, we don't have a lot to invest and we don't want to spend a lot, fine. But we love our people and we want to give them the best that we can do, then I get that. That's the heart that I love. And we'll say, we're going to, do everything we can to get you the best benefits at the cost. So I would just say to the business owner, once you make this commitment, know why you're doing it for your people, understand everything we've talked about, the win for you, the win for them, the heart behind it, the importance of it for their families when they go home. So that way you can just at least be plugged in. There's not a lot we require, but during open enrollment and stuff, we may need your help communicating it. Mm-hmm. So it's funny when owners don't take the time and you're trying to talk to them about something important. And I know they're in the whirlwind and they can't even give you 5 minutes. And they're like, yeah, yeah, what'd you say? And then after, we've done everything, they're like, well, why is this again? And, but we're used to working with small business owners. So we have groups from 2 to 200 all over the country. Most of our clients are in that 10 to 40 range, as far as employee size, but we'll have a 150-man group, and it's not really about the employee size. I sat down with one recently. It's really the owner was interested in all the creative outcomes. He leaned in, he listened, and that's what I love is like he's going to digest and he's going to get behind. In business, I would just say, if it's primarily entrepreneurs out there, just keep your joy every day, and also act as if, like I told you, you have the ability as an entrepreneur to go sit by the lake and go play golf. And those things are good, but you definitely need to have a structure, even though you work for yourself. There needs to be consistency. I get here at 4:30 every morning. I leave at 4. I'm home by 5 to see my kids. I live and die by my calendar. So even though I own the business, I still am an employee in the business in the sense of I have consistency. I think if you just kind of see your days like, well, I own the business. I can go on the boat if I want. It's beautiful. I can take a jet ski. Those are good here and there, but as well as I do, those things take away what? The mighty mo. We all know about the mighty mo. And if you lose that mighty mo, got to get it back with a little bit of consistency. Yeah. So that's my little one observation of Benny.
I got to tell you, I love that you brought up momentum here at the end. The one thing I regret the most about losing my first business, which I lost, and I can tell you this some other time, it was my fault. Right? We took a business risk that didn't work out. It bankrupted the whole thing. And the thing that I've missed the most is the momentum, not having the right people, not having the brand recognition of 6 years, the thousands of customers we had. There was so much that got left behind. And now that I've started another business it was a year and a half ago that we started. And just starting everything out from scratch again has been a grind. It is brutal. Momentum is huge. And so if you've got a good culture going, like we've been talking about here, don't take it for granted. And if you're getting to the point where you're like, I kind of want to go sit on the beach or go to the lake or play golf, like you are now out of the game. And find a way to sell, find a way to exit, or hire somebody to be the new CEO and maybe give them some stock. Like there's a lot of things you can do, but if you're checking out like that, you're done. And just hear your 2 other entrepreneur friends saying like, that's okay. Just make that choice. Don't let it happen to you. And don't live in this woo-woo world where you think everything's going to keep running fine, because you, like we just talked about, are the leader setting the bar. And now all of a sudden, if the new bar is we golf and we take 3-day work weeks and we do yada, 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 like, that's not going to work out well for you in the long run.
To that point also, kind of coinciding with that, it just emphasizes the same point, I would say, and I've lost too. And you learn from those. One mistake I've made is you start this business, you got good momentum, and you're not necessarily ready to check out, but you feel like, yeah, I've got 20 employees, I've got thousands of customers. You said that. And so you get this general manager, and then you hire that general manager, and then you start fading back a little bit. And maybe, I don't have to get up and go down there this morning. I don't have to check to make sure, the salads are prepped or whatever. You know what it took. Mm-hmm. And you start putting more and more trust in this person to run your business. And then the more you're away, you're like, I don't feel like going there today. And so I see small business owners get that momentum. They build something, and then it's not that they're ready to walk away from it, but they just feel like I've arrived, and they check out way too early, and they give too much credence, credibility, and responsibility to somebody who is not the owner. And I've seen it done. I've done it. And
well, you work hard.
I'm like, I can step.
Yeah, you put all these years in. There's something about 5 years and $1 million in revenue.
But I'm not doing it in this one. Well, I've done it before, and that caused me to lose. This one, I'm here. You got to see my face, baby. I'm hitting them up on Teams at 5 a.m.
Yeah, you're like,
yes, I am here.
Yeah, I'll make a mistake. I'm trying not to make it twice. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So something I want to start trying with guests is a lot of people we have on, they're either, marketing leaders or they're actual business owners themselves. And so we're a marketing company, so I want to spin it around on you. If you had the chance to ask me one question about marketing, what would you ask? And maybe I can put something smart out there for everybody that's listening.
What is your specialty? And I'm going to couch that. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. I have dealt with a lot of marketing companies before, and they've all turned me off because nobody knows what their strengths is. They may be good in everything, but somebody who creates and stages a video is different than the person who creates content, is different than the person who can design a good lookalike audience. Platforms are different. So if I said to you, and we only had a few minutes, like, what's your strength? Like your passion, like, what are you really good?
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, so Highbeam specifically is really strong at running paid advertising campaigns. And what I found out when I was running the barbecue restaurant was that Facebook, Google, Yelp, oh my God, the Yelp calls that I got back in the day, that sales team is brutally obnoxious. But I guess it works because they do it. Like, oh my God. Yeah. But what I found out was like there's a lot of different ways to spend money on running ads. And, I got very lucky that I ended up, after the barbecue thing shut down, I ended up with this company called Ramsey Solutions. And I worked on a team with like maybe 300 marketers and creative folks. So like, seeing the disciplines that go into marketing in general. And then I ended up finding 2 friends that helped run paid ads there at Ramsey. And so they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on advertising. And so what we do better than anybody else is like you're talking about building the lookalike audiences, building the actual campaigns themselves. Here, first 2 years in the company, we're trying to stay really focused on that as our thing that we do for people, and I think it's worked out. Right now we're averaging like a 6x return on ad spend for people that are in the e-commerce space, which is great, especially in a world where everybody says Facebook ads are dead. And that's just definitely not true because we see it every single day. And so we're trying to stay focused because another lesson I learned at the barbecue restaurant was that the restaurants that end up in trouble have the really big menus. Cheesecake Factory can get away with it. They're in a different game than most small mom and pop restaurant owners. And so you don't really want a menu with a bunch of different styles on it. If you're a sandwich shop, be a sandwich shop. If you're barbecue, be barbecue. Like we didn't even sell hamburgers. Agreed. And we didn't sell steaks, and we didn't sell hot dogs. We didn't sell a lot of things that I knew would sell, but just because we could make money doing it doesn't mean that we should. And
Gordon Ramsay will tell you that.
That's right. Yeah. And by the way, I went to Vegas for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I got to eat at his Hell's Kitchen restaurant, which is like a sort of it's like a reflection of the show, which I'm a big fan of because of my restaurant background, all the stuff. Yeah. The food was amazing. And that beef Wellington thing, if you ever get a chance to eat it, it is like crazy good. So
all this talk about barbecue and everything makes me hungry, man, because I love a good barbecue. I love some good baked barbecue beans. People don't know you got to take your time in some barbecue beans because that could be a clincher, man.
Yeah. Oh, the sides are very underrated when it comes to barbecue. Everybody does meat pretty well. The sides, though, are the differentiator. Well, I mean, we're friends now, and you're right up the road, so we can have a backyard barbecue at my house anytime, man. Just let me know when you're available.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. This was great.
I had a blast. Thank you. It's great getting to know you. And I was going to say something else, and I forgot. Oh, I do love, just to punctuate what you said, staying in your lane. We could do 1,000-man groups, 5,000 everybody goes to. I know how to build them from scratch. Mm-hmm. But we know, love, and we know how to help small to mid-sized companies. And so knowing that this is your strength here to focus on that, there may be some ancillary things, but if you can carve out a niche, that's really brilliant. And every entrepreneur on the listening should focus on that.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we'll do about 300,000 top line this year, which is, not nothing, but it started from zero. And if we get too broad, too fast, we're going to lose the little bit of momentum we do have. I say 80% of our revenue comes from what we talked about, but like you look at the Highbeam Marketing's page, like we built our website. I write the blogs. I write our emails every week. I do the podcast thing. Like we're doing all the things of a full, well-rounded marketing plan, but we do it only for our business. So we stay really focused in that way. And it helps. It does help. Well, Will, I appreciate you joining us on the show, man. And I appreciate everybody out there listening. And we will see you next week.